But yeah, I find that that it's interesting that we're finding like guys like you, Jordan Peterson, and you guys work together.
We were colleagues. Jordan was just down the hallway from me. We continue to keep in communication.
Because he doesn't teach anymore now, does he?
No, I mean he had a very fraught relationship with the University.
Oh,
of
he
Toronto.
did.
Yeah, and I think there was fault on both sides in that issue. But I want to be very clear. I have a really good relationship with the University of Toronto. They've treated me well. The psychology department, at least, has treated me extremely well.
Yeah.
Right. But Jordan and I were colleagues. We were very friendly colleagues. We shared students. We would frequently find ourselves at the same conference talking about stuff.
That's fun. Was it fun to discuss things with him and be able to communicate?
Yeah. And I want to say this very carefully, because whatever you say about Jordan Peterson, it'll bite you in the ass no matter what you say. Because Jordan's a very divisive person. But Jordan, and it's reciprocated, Jordan respects me. And when Jordan respects you, he interacts with you differently that if he doesn't respect you or he doesn't know if he should respect you, then he interacts. This is, at least to my mind.
It could be a safety mechanism too.
It could be a safety mechanism. It could also be that that's the kind of teacher he was. There were 3 life-changing professors at the University of Toronto. One, I won't mention his name, and the other 2 were myself and Jordan Peterson. And so we often shared students. Like I said, I've always had and I've appreciated very good relationships with Jordan. I don't agree with Jordan on certain things, especially political things. But you see, like when some of the stuff dropped initially, I'd send him an email and I'd say, here's my arguments against your position. But I think they should treat you with respect. You're making a point. You should be treated with, like, the way he shouldn't have just been sneered at or yelled at. He deserved to be given a good hearing, a good counter argument.
Yeah, I think once you get to a certain level, kind of a popularity, and once you're in the social media sphere, in some sense, it becomes more of like a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome out there, and not as much of probably the grounds you guys are used to, where people communicate regularly.
And so the thing is, like, when I would write him that email, he would say thank you, like he was appreciative, or like, I'll be on his channel with him, and he'll criticize postmodernism, and I'll say, well, I think there's value to postmodernism, and here's the value, and here's, like, Foucault was saying this, and and Derrida was saying that, and he'll be responsive and respectful.
Yeah,
right. And so, but the thing about that is like I want to maintain a good relationship with, like, when he found out I had diabetes, and he sent me a supportive email, and I appreciate that. Like, I believe, and this will get me in hot water with some people, but I believe that Jordan is fundamentally a good person, and I think he has very good intent, and I think he's terrifically talented. But the things that make you adaptive make you prone to self-deception, and there's things that he also we fundamentally don't agree on.
Yeah.
But right, I think if we could get out of the polarization around him, and to be fair, I think he contributes to it. I think by his own admission, he's not very good on Twitter. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think he would admit that. I'm trying to think of what we talked about when I chatted with him.
If we could get out of polarizing, and if he could get out of being caught up in that. Like, what's really impressive is like when I've talked to him, or Jonathan and Pajot and I talk to him, he'll get a lot of comments like, do more of those, Jordan, do more of those.
Yeah.
Right? Because for me, I feel like that's the Jordan that I really respect and I have affection for coming to the fore. And then there's this other aspect of him that I can't connect to him.
Maybe he likes to get into the fracas of it,
Well, see, that's a philosophical difference between us. I think trying to solve the meaning crisis at the adversarial level of propositional just ideas and ideologies and that kind. I don't think it can be solved there. We've been talking about a much different level, much different ways in which the meaning crisis has to be solved. I think and I don't. This isn't a scapegoat. This costs me. So this doesn't come for free. This isn't a cop out. I'm metapolitical. I think that trying to get engaged with this problem in a political framing is fundamentally a modal confusion. It is to make that kind of profound mistake. I think the left at its best reminds us that we're finite animals subject to fate and we have to show compassion to each other. And the right at its best reminds us that we're also called to transcendence and the cultivation of virtue. And when they worked where they were correcting each other and helping each other emerge, and we're committed to democracy, then we have something wonderful. When they break that up into winner take all, the other side is evil, and I have to destroy them, then that society, that democracy is doomed and over. And I think that's where our political situation is. So I refuse, like Socrates, and Plato, I refuse to participate in the political domain, because for me, I do not, and see, Jordan wants to go in there guns blazing, and that's a fundamental difference between us. And so we've come to understand that we won't talk about those things.
Right. Those are just ways you guys are. Yeah. And I'm glad we probably need people to be both ways. I think some of the online stuff gets like it gets addictive probably. You know?
It is.
Yeah, I think once you get into that world, there's people that their whole lives are that world, and he loves to argue points. So I think if you want to argue stuff, you can do it all day there.
Well, yeah, but it's argument for Plato made a distinction between philosophia, the love of wisdom, and philonikeia, the love of victory. And when it's the love of victory, then you've lost the Socratic spirit.
Right.
Right? Like I will disagree with people. Bishop Maximus and I, we disagree. He is a committed and I think profound and virtuous Christian. I'm not. We know this. And yet, so we disagree and profound, and yet he's one of my dearest friends, and we draw each other out and we contribute to each other, right? You can disagree, you can argue, you can challenge, but you don't have to pursue demonization, destruction. You don't have to pursue confirmation porn. You don't have to pursue narrative porn. You know what the narrative bias is? Narrative is, this is a real bias. I can tell a story about that, so it must mean I know what's going on, right? And so we get simplistic narratives, we get confirmation porn, we get this sort of self-righteous, adversarial. I'm going to destroy the other, and see, it shows how good and it's ultimately narcissistic. I don't want to participate in any of that crap,
right?
And so you can see I'm getting very animated.
Oh, it's okay. It's interesting.
I feel very strongly that. Sorry, I want to make it clear that I'm not arguing against Jordan in his absence. I would welcome if he was here and could defend his position.
Yeah. I don't think that we are. I think I have a decent enough relationship with him, and I'm sure you have a great relationship with him. So it's like I would understand if he wouldn't be upset. I don't think
so. I think he understands that we're like he's invited me to do things like he's putting together a new course, Peterson Academy, and I've already done one course for him on intelligence, rationality, wisdom, and spirituality. But when he made the offer to me, he said, "Well," I said, "Jordan, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Christian. And I have ideas other than yours." He said, "First of all, you can criticize me if you want. You have complete academic freedom. And you don't have to be a Christian, and you don't have to toe the conservative line. I just want you to come in and give the best possible course you could give." And I said, "Okay, under those conditions, I'll do it." Because why wouldn't I? That's a completely virtuous context.
Yeah.
And I hate guilt by associating. Well, you're associating with it. Really?
Yeah, that's become a huge problem in America, in politics overall, and in society.
You can't do that. You're right. You it's so funny. Like people don't even realize. Like they'll guilt by association, and then they'll espouse sort of Foucault and postmodernism, who are deeply influenced, profoundly influenced by Heidegger, who was literally a Nazi, right? And it's like, where does your how does your guilt by association metric work, right? It doesn't work consistently. It doesn't work coherently.